football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
This week on the Red Zone Retirement Program, we're going to talk about target date funds, Coach. I'm here to chew bubblegum and talk about target date funds, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So I guess we're going to talk about target date funds. Is it the lazy way to retire? That's kind of the question, because check this out. $4 trillion in assets now in target date funds. That's big money, as they say.
Yes, there's a lot of people. I see this all the time, and we all know that this is where a lot of companies are trying to eliminate liability. So when you're investing in their 401k, when you're contributing 401k, they'll match. That's an easy way to match is with a target date fund, and they just grow, and people don't have any idea what that's.
Well, it's the default now for a lot. Like as soon as you start working, they put you in one based on your age.
Absolutely.
Which look. Let me start by saying this, Coach. Then I'll just because I know you're not a fan, so we're going to talk about this. But if you're younger and you do nothing, this is a great option. They're putting you in it. You're saving money. That's fantastic, right?
That is correct.
I think target date funds, when you get a little older, though, and you're working with a financial professional, there's a better smorgasbord of things out there for you.
Yes. Yeah, and I would still argue with somebody who's younger in the target date fund, but of doing that. But yes, if you have no idea what you're doing, which is still 90% of the millennials out there, or Gen Z. I don't know. I'm aging myself just by talking like this.
Well, but that's why they exist. The target date fund. That's why they exist. The target date fund, because it is easy.
Yes, it is super easy. If you're under the age of 40 and you have no idea what the stock market is too risky, or you don't understand any of this stuff, you know what is an S&P. This is fine. It does help you. It gets you started. Like I said, a lot of companies will match. A lot of companies, that's their default. I do have people that are intentionally doing it that are more knowledgeable than doing this.
Right.
And so that's where I'll have some arguments on this. But I will say that target date funds, where we're going to get to here is, I'm more focused on retirees or people that are close to retirement, and why would you, and what you'd be doing at that point in time. But yeah, if you have no other knowledge of anything, it's as good as eating right and exercising daily. That's fine. Now, it doesn't tell you how you're exercising, it doesn't tell you what you're eating, but that's okay. It's better than nothing.
So I saw that 8 out of 10 of all Vanguard accounts now are target date funds. And folks, just in case, real fast, in case you don't know exactly what we're talking about, when you get a job and you go to sign up and it's like, to pick this target date fund for 2040 because you're going to retire in 2040, or 2050, the 2050 fund, right? Or whatever. That's what it is, right? So it's kind of using that kind of timeline. And again, if you're younger, a lot of times you're getting your first big gig, hey, I'm going to retire in 2050. Cool. That sounds good. You're in there, rock and roll. And here's what I want to talk about the misnomers a little bit, Coach, because they actually, according to Vanguard as well, they actually are now more aggressive right out of the gate in the last 5 years than they were even 10 years ago at a higher aggressive rate. But the big misnomer is people think as they get closer to the target that it pares down the risk. They do that. That is true. But they don't take it down really, really low. It's 50-50, maybe the lowest, right?
Mm-hmm. And that still depends, and we were going to get into this, so we might as well jump to it now, is
go for it.
Whether the glide path is to or through retirement. So that is something that's very important to know. So
So what is that?
So what that means is the glide path. That is how, first of all, these target date retirement portfolios, they are being managed. I know we all think, they're just indexed. They're not. They're being managed by human beings.
They're actively
managed.
Okay.
They're actively managed. And so you have a real human being that is making these decisions on whether if your target date is 2050, 25 years from now, you're 40 years old, you're trying to get to this target date, whether it's just trying to get you to the target date or through retirement all the way through. That will affect how they have your money invested. Because if they're just trying to get you to retirement, the way they look at it internally is they're just trying to get you there knowing you're probably going to move on somewhere else. That's kind of their attitude. You're going to get to 65 and then you're going to do something else with it. If it's through retirement, that means their idea is that they're trying to get you through the next 10 or 20 years after retirement. So that's how they'll manage the portfolio that way. So it's important to know. We talked about another podcast, details. That's an important detail to know. Another important detail to know is because these are managed, they are actually going to cost a little bit more. I know we love Vanguard. We use Vanguard with our clients. Vanguard is very inexpensive, but the target date funds are going to cost a little bit more because humans are actually managing these. Even if they're using index funds within it, a human being, they got to get paid.
Yeah.
They're putting the effort, and so they're going to cost a little bit more. I'm not talking about gazillions of dollars more, but if you compare costs with, say, a Vanguard portfolio, which we use, versus what you're going to see the average target date fund right now, I think is around 40 basis points or something like that.
Okay.
That's a significant difference, 40, 50 basis points. And those have come down significantly over time. But you look at the companies that offer these target date funds, aside from Vanguard, you see a lot of firms that are classically known for being actively managed and charging higher fees than say Vanguard or T. Rowe Price.
Won't name any names, but they use the flag a lot. Anyway.
Yes. So those are the things to know as far as a target date fund. Is it to or is it through the what we call the glide path?
Yeah.
So that's something we want to know. And another thing I always like to do is I like to talk to people is, first of all, why do they choose this? That's the first thing I always come up with. And this is why I kind of get on people.
Because it's easy.
If they kind of know anything about asset allocation, they could probably do a better job on their own than what's in the target date fund. This isn't anything against the target date fund guys who are managing these portfolios, but they're trying to create a one size fits all portfolio for literally millions
anybody
of different
that's
people.
going to retire in 2050, right? I mean,
yes,
if you're falling that age bracket, well, I'll throw my wife under the bus on this one, Coach, because with her job, she's like, I'm just going to go with this target date fund and it's going to work. And I'm like, all right, but I was like, look, why don't you just let me help you? We'll go in there and pick. And she's like, I don't want to mess with it. And I don't want to argue with you. And I just blah, 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 blah. So it's just easy. And that's fine. But again, her age, we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we need to start taking a look at being at more specific options, not just this general grouping.
Yeah, you're exactly right. As you're getting closer towards retirement, this is why I'm not sure it should be for all younger people, but let's just go with that. Let's just say it's okay for a younger person. Once you're hitting that magic age of, say, 50, where you're going to be 10, 15 years from retirement, I think there's so much more nuance. One thing you do find out in retirement funds, because they are really, let's get also into the weeds a little bit here, a little nerd alert. These are funds of funds. Right. So you're going to have a target. One of the sections of your target date fund will be just, U.S. equities, and there's going to be other funds that are going to be underneath that. There is the potential, depending on what target date fund you use, for overlap. And if you have outside of your target date fund, if you have other mutual funds or ETFs, either through a brokerage account or with an IRA or another 401k that's dormant, you're going to have some overlap. And one thing that we do when the client comes in with these target date funds and they have a mishmash of other things is we provide an overlap report. We kind of show them, by the way, you have too much John Deere or Caterpillar over here and you don't have enough of, and I'm making up these, Microsoft or whatever.
Well,
so
and typically it's large cap too, right, Coach? So typically a lot of the overlap falls into large cap. It's the same conversation and argument when somebody says they come in to see someone like you, an independent financial professional, after they've been working at a big, or they work with a big brokerage, or they said, hey, I went to this big brokerage and I bought a mutual fund. And then I went to this big brokerage and I bought this mutual fund. And then I went to a third one and I bought a third one, but they're all different companies. So I'm diversified, right? And you go look and you're like, no, you bought the same mutual fund or roughly the same, and you have 12 different versions of Microsoft or whatever it might be.
Yes. So there's a lot of inefficiency. We will do an overlap report for you. If you came in and this is kind of what you're doing, I quickly do an overlap report. One thing that we also look for is tax efficiency. Within a 401k, the tax efficiency isn't such a big deal. But if these target date funds you can buy outside of a 401k, you can have them in other areas. And so they're really not designed for tax efficiency. So that's another reason why I kind of tap the brakes on maybe a target date fund outside of a retirement account. And also I think you can come up with custom strategies that you really can, delve deeper into with folks where, okay, by the way, this is your risk tolerance. I'm not a big risk tolerance questionnaire guy.
Okay.
But that's something where you talk to somebody, you find out, okay, this is how I feel. I see a lot of people that either within their target date fund, they'll be overexposed to something, but then outside they'll be underexposed, not having international, for an example. I'm a big believer that you need to have a part of your portfolio in international. This is something where if you talk to an advisor, we can kind of, again, scientifically and engineer your portfolio to come with what I'm looking for, which is the lowest volatility with the best return, especially if you're trying to get close to retirement. So
yeah, for sure.
There's other things that you also have to be aligned with. And I'm kind of going on and on here, but when we're trying to do a financial plan for someone, we're trying to do your own target date, if you will. We're looking at Roth conversions. We're looking at the sequences of returns. We're looking at your required minimum distributions in the future. Oh, do you have a pension? What age do you think you're going to take Social Security? All these things affect what you should be doing with your portfolio over here. And yet the target date fund is it's generic. It's the generic on the aisle. That's what it is.
You just said a great way of looking at it. You still can build a target date fund if that's what you want by working with a qualified professional individually. They're just going to really customize it back down to you versus the big one size fits all. And again, I've got a great line here that we put together, the producers and I put together for this show, for this content. And it's like, look, with $4 trillion riding, it's a one size fits all strategy. They're clearly putting all kinds of people in there. So it's worth asking the question, are you planning for retirement or are you coasting towards it? Right. And that's what the target date fund is designed to be. It's designed to coast towards it. And if that's fine with you, then cool, do it.
Yes.
Right.
So
but know the nuances.
Yes, and again, it's the generics. Is kind of how I heard somebody describe it one time. When you're shopping on an aisle, you're going to find different products for for soap or whatever. There's going to be different things for different allergies.
I saw one the other day, Coach. Sorry, it was hilarious. Instead of Fruit Loops in the name brand, it was Fruity Hoops. So there you go. It was the generic, right?
So that's what you're buying when you get the target date fund.
The Fruity Hoops.
It's generic. It's going to be. I remember years ago I worked in a grocery store and the generic light beer was a white can with black letters said light beer. Well, that's what you're getting. You're getting the generic version of it. Not that generics aren't entirely bad. Again,
they can be good.
Is better. Generic soap is better than no soap. So it's okay to have that. But again, if you have allergies or if you have other needs, if you need more in-depth scrubbing, you need different types of soap if you're going to do that. And so your generic may not be what you need to have. So it may be the cheapest, but it may not be the best for you. So this is why it's super important to kind of, I believe in the personalization of a portfolio. And so again, the target date funds, again, are okay with somebody who just doesn't have any desire to learn or not have any knowledge. Set it and forget it. It does do automatic rebalancing, which is always nice to have.
That's a nice perk as well.
It's definitely a nice perk. So it's good to have that. But again, the glide path is something you need to know. The costs are something you need to know. There's so many things that you need to know. And I think there's some hidden complexity in there that you have that you don't really think of. You just see, hey, target date 2050, goodbye.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by RescueMyRetirement.net. That's RescueMyRetirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's RescueMyRetirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
Right. And that's why I kind of wanted to chat about it this week, because, again, it's a really easy option. It's like kind of like people making the conversation about a 401k. A lot of times you'll hear advisors say, look, the 401k, it's a good vehicle in and of itself. Definitely contribute, definitely get the matching, but then it may be worthwhile to go and do something outside of that, right? And to really customize your own portfolio.
Yes.
And again, time horizon and age plays a factor in this. If you're 20 to 30, this set it and forget it stuff is probably groovy. My kid's 28. She's rocking the government TSP. She could care less. She's letting it roll. But when she gets older, she's going to want to, dial that in, because that's where I'm at now, right? So it's time of life plays a factor in that. I really think it does.
Absolutely. And again, that's why I stress to people, if you are within my demographic that I work with are people that are close to retirement, within 5 years of retirement or right at retirement, because people are hitting the panic button at that point. They're like, "Oh my, I haven't really
I'd even
planned for
say
all this
50
stuff."
and up, Coach. I'd even say
Yes,
50 and
I would
up,
agree
right?
with that. I would absolutely agree with that. So if you're at that point where you're like, okay, it's facing you right now, you need to grow up a little bit and do a little bit more than just set and forget it. So that's kind of my opinion on things, if I can be so bold.
No, you're fine. And look, leave us a comment down in the sections below if you're offended by the fact that you don't know anything. We didn't mean it necessarily that way, but hey, but if you like Fruity Hoops better than Fruit Loops, let me know that too down in the comments. That's fine as well.
Yes.
So look, we try to hopefully offer some, educational points here, points and counterpoints. Target date funds, they have some good things about them. They, the auto rebalancing, it's a set it and forget it, especially if you're not good with numbers, if you're not good with math, it's a way that you're building for retirement. Absolutely. However, if you want to be more efficient, you want to be, make more and try to be, have a better designed portfolio for who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, well, then that's why working with somebody might be a better option to go with. So if you need some help, reach out to Coach. And even if you just want to give us a hard time, but reach out to Coach and have a conversation and get the ball rolling. You can find all the links in the show descriptions below. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course YouTube, so you catch more of our witty repartee and banter back and forth. But you can also book time with Coach. And again, the links are in the description. Book a chat with John.net is an easy way to do that in case you are listening in audio form and you want to just get on the calendar with him. Coach, thanks for hanging out. I know it wasn't your favorite topic, but I appreciate you talking.
Yes, it was great. Thank you.
You have a great day. We'll see you next time here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with Coach John Mears.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License Number 0685203.